Van ustedes a traer de muestra 2 hombres del planeta Tierra. Si dan buen resultado, mandaremos por más y en grandes cantidades. Cautivos. Casi. Enamorados. ¡Qué bueno! Con los casos que están en Venus. Por eso mismo. Pero tienen que reunir las siguientes características.
This is the 2015 Acura TLX 3.5 with all-wheel drive. Now this is an interesting paint job. From this angle with the sun, it looks metallic brown. With this angle, it turns to black. Nice looking paint, but if you ever had to match it with a fender bender, that paint job is going to have their work cut out for them. Now the base TLX starts around $31,000. It gets you a 4-cylinder engine under the hood, front-wheel drive, and an 8-speed automatic transmission. This is the upgraded model, which costs a bit more. Now specifically, this is a TLX 3.5L SH-AWD ADV. Lots of letters in these Acura titles, and there are no options. It starts at $44,700. They do tack on for shipping for a total of $45,595. So what are you getting for your money? Well, under the hood we get a 290 horsepower V6, rated at 21 to 31 miles per gallon. We get all-wheel drive, which means it drives not only in the front wheels, but the rear. We also get 4-wheel steering, which also means the front steers, as well as the rear. It's said to improve handling and cornering ability. We'll find out, I guess. And instead of an 8-speed automatic gearbox, we get a 9-speed automatic gearbox, which is here. We'll talk about this in a minute. And we had a long list of all the high-tech stuff that Acura puts on their cars. Way too long to read here. I want this to be a short video, not a long one. But trust me, it has everything you could think of. Now, usually when I test a car, I point out the good features and the bad features. Here in the Acura, it's not a matter of just good or bad. It's a matter of just being different and let you decide whether it's good or bad. Because there are a lot of features on this car that are rather unique and have their advantages and disadvantages. Now, the first unique feature is the shifter. You notice there's not a shift lever going back and forth, but just simple knobs. Now, the advantage is you just press what you want instead of messing with the lever. The disadvantage here is it takes up just as much space as if you had a shift lever. And we consider that most manufacturers are going to knobs, like so. That's how much space a knob would take up versus this. So an improvement, yes, but the best way to go, no. Number 2, the engine has a cutoff ability, which means if you're at the traffic light, it cuts off to save fuel and then turns back on when you move. If you don't like that, you simply press this button here to disconnect. Now that's good thus far. And you do that, you get a little warning light here telling you what a bad person you are for not saving fuel. And of course we do need a warning light of sorts, so you'll know whether this is on and off. The disadvantage here is the same color as all the other important warning lights. In fact, when I turn the ignition on, you'll see there's lots of other warning lights of the same color, especially the check engine light. So here's the issue. I'm driving down the road, in the corner of my eye I keep seeing this orange warning light. Is it this? Or is it the check engine light? Or the tire pressure warning light? They're all clustered together and they all have the same color. So it gets to the point where I just ignore it, and what happens if the real warning light comes on, like the check engine light or tire pressure light? This really needs to be moved to another spot on the dash, and it needs to be a different color. I think it would solve a lot of aggravations. Of course, if you buy the car and after 2 or 3 months you might get used to this, it won't be an issue for you. I'm just showing it because that's the way it is. Now the climate control is also interesting. Now you have very simple controls here. The temperature, on, off, auto, front, rear. Very easy to use, but where is the fan speed knob? Well, there isn't one. What you do is A, press that, then you press this, then you wait for it to go away. Wouldn't it be easier just to have a knob here? But some people like punching things like this, so you have a choice here. Alright, now that we've covered the odd features in the Acura, let's take a look at the rest of the car. Here's a bird's eye view of the interior. Definitely modern looking, and I am, of course, filming from the back, and there's plenty of room back here, considering the small size of the car. Okay, in the seats, you know, there's one thing I cannot stand, and that's when manufacturers sell you leather that looks and smells like vinyl, but that's not a problem here. These definitely look like leather, they feel like leather, and they smell like leather. In a very nice, beautiful shade of brown. And comfortable, too. So we're definitely getting our money's worth here. For storage, we get a nice sized glove box, and even more if you take this divider out. Also, there's a switch here that disconnects the power trunk, so nobody can get in but you. Thank you. About time somebody put something like this on cars. And we get a nice size center console. Now we do get a gigantic trunk in this vehicle, and if we lift the lid up, we have more storage space. But the reason is because we don't get a spare tire. All you get is a little compartment here. With an air pump. Sorry, it doesn't work for me. I think for 45 grand I'd rather have a tire. If you're going on highway trips, you better buy one. Now if you live somewhere where there's lots of rain and snow and mud, you got to watch out for this, because they have a small shelf here where dirt builds up. It gets up in here, and a very, very wide rocker panel. So every time I'm getting out, my pants legs are rubbing on this. See that dirt? It's all over my pants. You got to keep this clean or you're going to get dirty. Now, one aggravation I found on many cars is the dash reflecting into the windshield on a sunny day, which is very aggravating on long trips. The Acura here, it's really not too much of a problem. The only thing reflecting in the windshield right here is the speaker. It's not in my field of view, so I really don't care. So I'd say it passed this test. You won't have a problem, at least as far as the driver's view is concerned, so that's good. Now this 3.5 liter V6 is one of the most sophisticated power plants on the planet. Very smooth, very quiet, very economical, lasts a very long time. On the other hand, let's keep in mind this is a heavy car, around 3,800 pounds, although it doesn't look it. And we have the drag of the all-wheel drive system too. So it does drain a bit of power before it gets to the road. By the way, I've noticed that the sun's going down, now the paint's changing colors on me again. Interesting. So back to the engine. A little sluggish off the line because of the weight, but it does pick up. And it sounds great. Nice brakes. And since we're going for a drive, let's look at this IDS button. That's the performance button, and you press it and a lot of things happen like this. You get Eco mode, Normal mode, Sport mode, and Sport Plus mode for those with a lead foot. And I can definitely feel the difference in the steering. And here we've got our unofficial G-force cornering track. Security gets really upset when I do this, so I think I'd better stop. Another unique feature I forgot to mention are the headlights. Some cars have 2, some cars have 4. The Acura has 10. 5 on each side. And we're going to be driving around tonight testing these babies out. Okay, let's see how these headlights work when they're on. Okay, on the high setting we have lots of light, as we would expect on high output headlights. On the low setting, the light is bright but cuts off very low, so if you're driving on backcountry roads where there's wildlife, you might want to put the brights back on. This works fine for city driving. Now, I said earlier I wasn't going to read all the high-tech stuff you get on this car because the video would be way too long, but let's take a look at least a few. Number one, we have the blind spot detector. When a vehicle's in your blind spot, it lights up to let you know there's something there. Great if motorcycles are beside you. If you turn your turn signal on and get ready to change lanes, then it gives a warning beep. That's a handy thing to have. Number two, we have the radar adaptive cruise control, which sets certain distances between you and the vehicle in front of you automatically. I don't like this system, but they're telling me that if you hold this down for so many seconds, you can turn it off and go to conventional cruise, which is what I prefer. Nice to have a choice, and we get it here. Number three, you got the parking radar that lets you know if you're going to back into something that you shouldn't. This is the road mitigation system. What happens is if you take your hands off the wheel, the computer senses the lines in the road and corrects the steering for you. That's right, the car steers itself. If you try to change lanes without a turn signal, it warns you as well. So actually, if you set the cruise control on the freeway, let's say 70 miles per hour, and then hit this one for the automatic steering, the car could actually drive itself without a driver, maybe until it runs out of gas. So you guys who like to text and read the newspaper, you might want to give it a try, but I don't think that's a good idea. In fact, I don't think either one of these are good ideas, so I turn them off. But it's there if you want it. Okay, cruise is on, the steering wheel system is on. Let's see if the car steers itself. My hands are not on the wheel, as you can see. Here's my hand. Yep. I think I better stop this before I get pulled over. I'm weaving just a bit too much. So if I climbed out of the sunroof, this car would probably go all the way to Los Angeles. Interesting system. And since we're driving on the freeway, I'm getting 32 miles to the gallon for those interested. And the ride is reasonably comfortable, although a bit more firm than it should be, but this isn't a luxury car, so I'm not going to complain about it. So what's my take on this Acura? Well, it does have luxury, although I don't think it's enough to classify it as a luxury sedan. It definitely has a sporty engine, although this car is a bit heavy, so I wouldn't call it a sports sedan either. I think the best definition would be a high-tech car because it has all the high-tech goodies you could want. If you're not into high-tech, the base Acura at $31,000 with 4-cylinder engine and front-wheel drive is probably your best bet. While it doesn't have all the fancy equipment, it'll certainly last a long time, as most Honda products do. What are you doing in my storage room? You don't live here. Go away. Shoo. Hey. Hey. You. Get lost. Be flipping that tail at me.